Hello everyone, welcome back to some more of The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, and this may or may not be the final episode. I mean, there's still a lot to do, but I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to do all of it, so yeah, this is probably the final episode, and if not, then it's the penultimate episode, but yeah. Anyways, last time, what happened last time? Right. As it turns out, the blood analysis came back. Yeah, the blood analysis came back, but the bailiff who brought it back was Sholmes in disguise, who gave us an item that Susato packed for us. The cat flapple mat, which makes small flaps in larger doors, like the peephole up here that basically started off the whole thing, right? As it turns out, while we were out chasing after the Skulkin brothers, she had made the peephole. See, it's not here right now. And so, yeah, she literally made the peephole as like a trap or something like that. That way if the killer was there, it's like a, you know what I mean? That way if the killer ever wanted to use it, then you could just say, here, the peephole wasn't there in the first place. Anyways, we did that, and now the question of, well, if the peephole wasn't there, how did he know about it? Because he wouldn't have known about it when he came into court. And if you recall, way back, I believe, 2 to 3 episodes ago, he was having this hush-hush conversation with Gregson. And so that's kind of where we are now. Okay. Anyways, let us... I think that's right. Yeah, so we now... Yeah, we basically just accused him, and now we just provide evidence. So, yeah, with that being said, I guess let's just get started with things, shall we? It is incumbent on the defense now to present evidence in support of this diabolical claim. Evidence? Just what are you proposing that the inspector demanded of the witness in return? The court must see proof of this alleged deal. If Inspector Gregson really did strike a deal with Mr. Graydon, then logically there's only one thing he could have wanted. That must be it. Well, it's easy enough. The missing link that joins all the dots together, yes.
I must...
Oh, well, that is not his voice,
I must press you for an answer now, Counsel. What evidence explains the nature of the alleged deal that Inspector Gregson made with the witness?
Well, that's easy enough. If you recall, the reason the inspector took the disc in the first place was because it was for McGilded. Well, McGilded deposited another item, the small music box, I believe.
Take that!
Yes. Okay. Inspector Gregson. Besides this murder, is it not true that you've been working on another very important case?
What are you getting at now, Sunshine?
Is it possible that this other top-secret case is what's alluded to in this newspaper article here? The classified secrets being leaked overseas from the Ministry of Justice.
How the bleeding Nora could you...
We discovered during the course of this trial the music box deposited at Windibanks by Magnus McGilded. A special music box designed to play 2 discs at once. It would seem very likely now that, encoded on the pair of discs that were in McGilded's possession, are the leaked classified secrets. So, I put it to you, Inspector, that in order to recover the second of the discs containing those secrets, you covertly made a deal with Mr. Graydon in which you exchanged the disc for details of the case.
You little...
Yeah? You made a deal like that just to get the disc? Why is that so important? Seriously.
Order!
On the day of the incident, when we met you at Windibanks, you said this.
A be taking all whatever it is of Matilda's down to the yard, thank you very much. So, on it's over.
Yeah, he was taking the disc, so it would make sense that he's collecting all of Matilda's stuff, but why? Scotland Yard already knew at that time, isn't that right? That Magnus McGillard was involved in the stealing of government secrets. Oh, that's probably why. Okay.
My orders were recover the medium used to convey the secrets leaked from the ministry, and do on the QT, strictly hush-hush.
And that explains why, when I presented this disc as evidence to the court, you objected so heavily, I presume. Because you knew that it contained highly confidential information.
Blimey, not likely. I mean, I wasn't that sure of it myself. I realized there was a possibility, that's all. Inspector, surely you're not saying in order to acquire the second of these music box discs, you did indeed reveal confidential details of the crime scene to the witness? To aid and abet this man in giving false testimony?
There's no other way that Mr. Graydon could have known of the existence of the people. It's the only explanation. A deal was struck between these two men. Yeah? Then I guess he has the disc on him now? Can we like search him? If, and I stress if, this sobering assertion turns out to be founded in truth, it would mean that the second disc is, as we speak, here in this very courtroom. Wait, what? In this room? How could you possibly make a claim like that? Because Inspector Gregson is a Scotland Yard detective. What?
What's that supposed to mean?
As a seasoned policeman, the inspector will have approached this alleged deal with caution. Certainly, he would not have accepted a gentleman's agreement in this matter. No, he would have insisted on having the article agreed upon in the palm of his hand.
Good gracious! Then you mean to say Inspector Gregson already has the item in question in his possession? He has the second disc actually on his person?
Yes!
The defense demands that the inspector is searched at once.
Definitely! They could only have struck a deal with each other when Ginny was testifying before. And Grexy hasn't moved from the witness stand since.
My lord, please, order an examination of his personal effects immediately.
Well, Inspector?
Yeah? He's not freaking out?
This young law wants to tone down his imagination. He's insulted me and my profession quite enough. However, if it'll put this matter to bed and dispel any doubts about my involvement, then I'll happily submit to a body search.
What? He's gonna agree to it? I presume you are aware of the precipice on which you now teeter, my learned student friend. You've made a most serious allegation against Scotland Yard here. If, following the search of the inspector's personal effects, no disc is found, you will be deemed unfit for court service. This trial will end, and my country's government will formally demand of yours that you are severely reprimanded. That sounds serious.
Indeed. To have a visiting student make such defamatory remarks about our country's most senior police force is not something Her Majesty's government will be able to overlook.
You're just threatening Bruno because you're scared.
Well, I mean, it is true. Like, this accusation is beyond serious. You must be prepared for grave consequences. It's true. I can't imagine Gregson would have accepted a gentleman's agreement for something so critical. The disc must have physically changed hands, which means the inspector should have it. But somehow, something doesn't feel quite right here. Yeah, if he had it, then he'd be freaking out, being scared and trying to, what was that? Okay, sorry, something just came up. But yeah, as I was saying, if he had the disc, he would be freaking out, trying not to get searched at all costs. So, then he doesn't have the disc? Oh, that's right. I literally just remembered. Okay.
Very well, Counsel. You know the implications. So, let me ask you one final time.
Yes, my lord?
Do you still persist in formally requesting a search of the inspector's personal effects?
Well, first off, we can't withdraw because, I mean, that kind of ends things, and this kind of ends things too. We're going to search someone else, and I'll tell you why in a moment. Yes, the defense formally demands the search be conducted.
Well,
Don't say you weren't warned, but your typical Nipponese stubbornness may well land you in hot water this time. Perhaps the lesson will do you some good. Fair enough. I've got nothing to hide.
very well then. Bailiff, conduct a search of the inspector's personal effects.
The defense demands a search, but not of Inspector Gregson.
What? Now what's all this? I'm the one you're accusing, aren't I? I thought you wanted to search me.
No, Inspector, not you. Somebody else.
What's the meaning of all this, huh? Lost it at last, have you, sunshine? Of course you're not to put up this nonsense. You're being completely irrational.
Now he's talking. Okay. That was right. Who said that? Oh. Okay.
Bruno's doing what you all told him to do, and having the courage of his convictions. So you should respect that and listen to what he has to say in good faith. Because that's the British way.
Well said, young lady. Indeed, this court is in awe of the defense counsel's conviction and eagerly awaits his next words.
You what? Now, don't be hasty, my lord.
If I'm not mistaken about the things I've seen in court today, I'm fairly sure that I know who has that disc at the moment. There's only one person it can be. Well, that's easy. If you remember, a little bit earlier, while we were talking to Graydon, Inspector Gregson did something very weird. Namely, he started, I guess shaking or something. Nash, which was weird, right? Well, what if he did this in order to take the disc off him, because he's already going to jail for perjury, so you know what I mean? He'd just get the disc back along his personal effects.
Take that!
Of, my lord, Mr. Nash Skulkin.
Well, I never.
Blimey? Me? Him?
Very well then. Bailiff, restrain the witness and conduct a thorough search of his personal effects.
Hold it! Please, my lord.
Inspector?
Scotland Yard, has to object to the search.
Objection!
Unfortunately for you, Inspector, your objections carry no weight here. In this courtroom, only the prosecution and defense have the authority to object. But Lord Van Zeeks, I have no idea what forces are in play that might influence your actions. But personally, I have no intention of obstructing the course of this trial.
Bailiff, carry out the search.
Now, hold on a mo. I don't know nothing. Nothing about no disc.
Right.
Here, my lord. In the witness's pocket. I found this. Good lord, that's...
Another music box disc.
I don't know nothing about it. Nothing. That is the second music box disc left behind by Magnus McGilded. Is it not, Inspector Gregson?
Order! Order! Mr. Skulkin, what do you have to say for yourself?
Gordon Burnett. I mean, just Gordon Flaming Burnett. I swear I don't know nothing about that disc. Honest to God.
Counsel, would you please explain what exactly is going on here? The alleged deal that was struck between this witness and this detective, no?
Without question, my lord.
Then, for pity's sake, why on earth was this man in possession of the disc that the inspector traded for information?
Inspector Gregson is a shrewd, calculating man who rarely loses his composure. But, at one particular point in this trial, he exhibited some unusual behavior for a brief moment.
I don't recall. What unusual behavior?
It was, yes, during my cross-examination of Mr. Graydon. Tell me, Mr. Graydon, when you left the pawnbrokery that night, was it by any chance with the second disc in your jacket pocket?
I admit to nothing of the sort.
Yeah, he must have... While Mr. Graydon answered my questions, the inspector appeared to have grabbed Nash Skulkin by his coat and was shaking him violently.
Yeah, he did it all. Thought my noggin was gonna fall clean off, I did. I was wishing I'd been born as my brother, I was.
And what exactly happened to make the detective attack you like that?
I ain't got a clue. He just suddenly turned and grabbed me whistle like that and started shaking me. Why the blaze didn't you mention the third gun when we got you down the station? That's what he said. Yelled it right down my ear hole, he did. My head's still throbbing now.
The way the detective behaved then was extremely out of character. But looking back now, it must have been then that he did it. That was the opportunity Inspector Gregson created for himself in order to hide the disc.
Well, bless my wig, he hid it.
You...
But I'm afraid I failed to comprehend the motive here. If the detective had acquired the disc he was after, why on earth would he then proceed to hide it in another man's pocket? This is a court of law. He could have submitted the item as evidence.
No, he couldn't, because then we'd be able to legally examine it.
It would appear, my lord, that the inspector was not at liberty to do that.
Why ever not?
As the man himself revealed earlier, his current assignment has some special conditions.
Yeah, recover the medium and keep it hush-hush. If he put it into evidence, we'd be able to... If he put it into evidence, we'd be able to examine it and basically reveal all the secrets. Through Morse code without knowing, I guess, huh? Interesting.
Hush, hush. A top-secret assignment, is it?
As far as we're aware, the information stolen comes from confidential government communications. It would seem that if the information were to be reviewed in court as evidence, it would be problematic. Does that sum up the situation, Inspector?
I'm operating under direct orders from the ministry. I'm afraid I'm not at liberty to answer that question.
So, realizing there was a chance you may be searched here in court, you took steps to hide that disc you had acquired from the witness.
Does this mean...
He only pretended to attack Mr. Skulkin in order to get close enough to him, to slip the second disc into his pocket.
So it was all a pretense? Well now, Inspector Gregson, and you, Mr. Graydon, are you prepared to admit to the accusation made against you of this alleged deal?
Admit to it, yours truly, please. Mr. Graydon, clearly our eastern visitor has an uncommonly active imagination. However, there's no proof that I passed that disc to the inspector.
Objection!
Then how did it end up on Nash Skokin? But then, how do you explain the reason why you knew about the peephole? I'm under no obligation to explain. What? Yes, I lied in my testimony. That I admit, so sentence me accordingly. But that is all I admit. Murder, leaking government secrets, striking a deal with the detective. All of it is this young Eastern man's fancy. I have no idea what any of that is about.
You... what?
Yeah, he's just gonna save himself? Well, what about you then, Inspector Gregson? Do you admit to making a deal with Mr. Graydon in order to acquire the disc?
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as a Scotland Yard inspector, I will declare this and nothing more. I'm acting in the best of my interest in my country. Whatever I've done, it's been in the name of justice. So, as members of the public of this fine country, I'd like to think that justice will be your guiding light when you're making your decisions. This is quite a quandary indeed. Rarely have I encountered such extraordinary tumultuousness in the concluding of a trial. Nevertheless, in the absence of any further evidence to be presented, I believe it is time that we put the matter to the jury for their final leanings. Well now, as a fellow servant of Queen and Country, I must say, I sympathize with the old inspector.
Yes, he's a dependable man, I'm quite sure. In service, he becomes a good judge of character. One becomes a good judge of character.
Even crossing your eyes doesn't help when it comes to looking at this case. It's all blurred to me.
Well, as a fellow professional, I'd like to put my faith in the detective, really.
Graydon is highly skilled operator, stop. Currently in presence of an idol, stop.
Detective has very much trust in eyes. More than this, I cannot say.
I don't believe it. These 6 jurors are... They're gonna believe Gregson. If they declare their decision now...
Is Ginny gonna be found guilty?
If I don't manage to produce some definitive evidence right now, then we're gonna lose. Either some proof that Graydon killed Mr. Winterbank or stole those government secrets, or some evidence to force Gregson into admitting that he struck a deal with the witness.
Well then, counsel, I think it's time I impose on the jurors to declare their final decisions. No? That is, unless you have some compelling evidence that you have thus far not presented to the court.
If I let the judge call on the jurors to announce their leanings, Gina will be found guilty.
So, there's no choice then, Runo. You have to throw some more evidence at them.
This is it now. It all comes down to this. Who do I present evidence against? Gregson or Graydon? I don't think it matters. I mean... Well, Gregson's not gonna admit it. Well, Graydon is not gonna admit anything. But... Gregson won't either. Let's go Gregson, why not? Inspector Gregson, there is one final piece of evidence I would like you to see.
What's that then?
If you refuse to acknowledge that you did in fact strike a deal with the witness here today, then you leave us no choice but to examine this piece of evidence thoroughly.
Well, go on.
Alright. This is easy enough, actually. Well, for one thing, I believe we have the music boxes right. Now that we have the other disc, we may as well play it. Play both discs at the same time, right?
Take that!
Is that McGilded's peculiar music box, Council?
Yes, with a disc already in place, ready to play. I think perhaps now that would be a good time to listen to the sound produced by the music box again. Only this time, with the second disc we've just discovered set in place as well.
Goodness! This disc, Council?
No, wait, I can't let you do that.
Why not?
But, because it's got nothing to do with this case. That's why.
Objection!
It has everything to do with this case. Not true, Inspector. The defense has already proposed that the sounds heard by the court earlier from this music box were part of a Morse code message. We know that Morse code comprises of two distinct tones. The defense believes that the second disc contains the second tone needed to complete the message. And now we have a chance to confirm that theory.
We're crying out loud, Sunshine. We're talking about state secrets here. If you go letting the whole courtroom hear confidential information like that, it's treason.
Then do you admit the charge? That in order to protect those state secrets, you engaged in unlawful dealings with the witness.
You're mad. If you let that secret information out into the public domain, you'll be making an enemy of the entire British government, you idiot.
Objection!
Let's not forget, Inspector, that you, a Scotland Yard officer, leaked confidential case details to a witness. That you continue to lie to the court, and all because, by fair means or foul, you're determined to do your duty. Well, by fair means or foul, I'm prepared to do mine.
Don't you dare.
I will stop at nothing to protect my client. I don't care who I make an enemy of. My lord, if you please, the court must hear the sounds made by that music box.
Come on, Van Zeeks, for Pete's sake, stop him.
Objection!
Inspector, you should know my methods by now. I'm a prosecutor. I'm no Scotland Yard puppet. In this courtroom, my duty is to the law. So, let me propose a toast to uncovering the truth, by fair means or foul.
Very well. The defense's stance here and that of the prosecution have been made very clear, I feel. Therefore, in accordance with the defense's request, the court will now listen to the music box. The court will now listen as this music box is set in operation once more. This time, with the second disc in place and both discs playing simultaneously.
Oh, listen to that.
It's unmistakable now. It's Morse code.
Alright, I admit it. Whatever you want. But for the love of God, shut that blooming box up.
Let me ask you again then, Inspector Gregson. Did you, or did you not, strike a deal with the witness next to you in the stand, Mr. Ashley Graydon?
Specifically, did you furnish the witness with confidential case details in exchange for this music box disc? Did you reveal the existence of the peephole in the pawnbroker storeroom, Inspector?
I did.
Stop! What are you doing, man?
So exactly like the young Eastern lawyer said. When the trial resumed after the recess, we were stood here in the stand together. That's when he approached me with the deal.
Shut up, you imbecile! Shut up! Psst, you there. You're the detective who turned up at the pawnbroker the other day, aren't you? I may have something you're looking for, Inspector, with me at this very moment. So, how about a trade? I suggest you accept. Or the information that may make certain individuals uncomfortable will soon become very public indeed.
I couldn't let that information become public knowledge, not under any circumstances. So, I accepted the man's proposal, and told him details about the case that should have been put him in the clear. The people in the storeroom door, and the bloodstains on the overcoat.
By giving false testimony, this witness intended to have the defendant wrongly accused of murder. Inspector, you knew that. Yet you still revealed those details to facilitate the witness's perjury.
I did. But then it turned out the peephole had only been made that night, after the incident took place. Scotland Yard wasn't aware of that, if I'm perfectly honest.
Well, Mr. Graydon, what do you have to say for yourself? There's nothing and no one left for you to hide behind. You struck a deal with the inspector in order to escape conviction of a very serious crime. Namely this. You are the third intruder who broke into the pawnbrokery on the night in question. And you perpetrated the murder of the proprietor, Mr. Pop Windebank.
You...
Yeah? What is that animation?
Bailiff! Bailiff! Restrain that man! At once!
That's it then. It's all over.
I despised my life growing up. Those slums are vile places. I was cursed from birth, born into poverty, the son of a penniless artisan. My parents did nothing but quarrel all day long. What little money they had was never spent on me. So I set upon about studying to better myself, to one day escape from that hellhole. And you eventually became a communications officer. I admire your determination.
But then you decided to sell government secrets? Why?
Isn't it obvious? Because I wanted money. Even now, years later, the nightmares of my life in the slums wake me in the small hours. I wanted to drown them out with more money than anyone who lived in that squalor could ever imagine. Then one day, I met him. Mr. Magnus McGilded.
You're a fiend with a queer talent, so you are. I've money to throw your way if you're interested. All you need to do is go along with me little plan now.
I think his voice was a lot higher. Whatever.
I was to steal the ministry's telegraphic message logs, and McGilded would buy them for a handsome sum. As I was responsible for inspections of the ministry's communications office,
It was a simple enough task.
The lure of the devil's offerings. How easy it is to succumb.
But you must surely have realized the seriousness of the crime you were committing.
And for that reason I took great lengths to ensure my actions were untraceable.
By using the music box.
My father was a brickmaker, though my mother divorced him when I was still a child.
Yes, Mr. Mason Milverton.
That's right, he was very skilled with his hands. He'd once been a music box maker's apprentice. I imagined his skills would be sufficient to create a machine that could generate Morse code. So I sought out my father again to employ his services. It was the first time I'd seen him since I'd left the slum 10 years earlier.
What voice do I give him?
Look at you, Ashley. What a fine gent you've become, huh?
He was a different man to the ordinary one of my memory. A thin, frail old man. But poverty had never broken him, never corrupted him like it had me. I was sure that he wouldn't help me if I told him the real reason. So I made up a story. I've got some work for you, Father. I need some music box discs made.
Music box discs, huh?
A musician friend of mine has written some music he wants to sell to the public. I've brought the score with me. There are two, actually. I'd be delighted.
Oh, I'd be delighted, son. It's been 20 years since I did any work like this, though. Fetch my tools, would ya? They're in the loft.
That's how I had him make the two discs.
Thereby splitting the information in two. You were taking considerable precautions indeed.
It was to protect myself as much as anything. It meant that I could deal with McGilded in two separate transactions. The first involved the first of the two discs in the music box for playing them. I exchanged them with McGilded for 10 guineas. Then, on receipt of the second disc, he would pay 1,000 guineas.
So, what happened on the omnibus 2 months ago? Was the second part of a deal? The exchange of the second disc?
Yes, I had sold the man the information that way a number of times already, but it seems he became reluctant to part with his money.
But that doesn't quite make sense, Mr. Graydon. For why was it on that omnibus 2 months ago your father, Mr. Milverton, the one dealing with Mr. McGilded, and not yourself?
When I received the 1,000 guineas after my first completed dealings with McGilded, I decided to give 200 to my father for his troubles. But my father realized something was amiss. In time, he worked out that I must be involved in something dubious, and when he did, he said to me,
Next time there's an exchange, you let your old man do it, understand? Otherwise, I won't take your money anymore.
That was my father's way of dealing with it, I suppose. Climb into the omnibus, hand over the second disc, and take the money from McGilded. That's it. He had no idea what was actually on the disc I'd asked him to make. He never knew. Just like that, I'll never know why everything went so horribly wrong that night. All I knew was that the disc was taken from him, and he never returned home.
Well...
It was only then that I found out what sort of a monster McGilded really was. So, after 10 years of not once uttering it, I swore on my father's name. To exact revenge.
Revenge?
As anyone with even the remotest knowledge of the man will no doubt be able to imagine, McGilded brought all his wealth and influence to bear in the most despicable of ways. To crush any semblance of justice in his trial. The crime scene was tampered with, evidence was fixed, and witnesses were bribed. That trial 2 months ago was a farce from start to finish.
My feet had barely touched British soil back then, and I walked into that hornet's nest completely unaware of the sinister background to it all.
I'd made plenty of money out of my dealings with McGilded by then, so I spared nothing in my arrangements 2 months ago. I knew exactly who to hire. If you're willing to pay the price, there are people in the city willing to do anything you ask. McGilded himself had shown me that.
Are you saying that?
I think you have the picture now. After he twisted everything to his favor in this courtroom to ensure that he walked free, I took matters into my own hands
And deliver the justice that monster deserved.
That tragic accident following the trial here 2 months ago was planned and executed by yours truly.
McGilded's death that day was caused by this man?
Everything's ready, sir. If you'd like to follow me into the courtroom.
What's this, officer? 'Tis sooner than I was led to believe.
I hope it's not convenient, sir. Some changes to the schedule.
Well, I must be making tracks now. 'Tis time for the inspection. They're going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. I asked if I could be present for it myself. So it is. Okay. So, that policeman who came to tell McGillard he could examine the omnibus again.
That's right, an imposter hired by me. McGilded used his wealth to manipulate the trial. He paid people to adulterate the omnibus with all manner of false evidence. He threatened witnesses to lie in their testimony. So, I gave the man a taste of his own medicine. Once the omnibus was doused in paraffin, one of my sham policemen ushered McGilded inside and sent him on a one-way journey to hell. An eye for an eye. That's how I avenged my father's death.
A spine-chilling account indeed.
But that wasn't the end of it for me. There was a loose end, you see.
A loose end?
Yes. I should think it's obvious. The second discs, which my father had taken to exchange with McGilded.
Ah, yes. There was indeed no mention of it in the man's trial 2 months ago. Clearly, because it had been removed from the scene of the crime.
When I realized it was missing, I remembered something. Something from the first time I dealt with McGilded.
Okay, before that though, there's a good chance his father probably decided to do the deal for him because I guess his father probably figured whoever he's doing these bad dealings with will probably just kill him to tie up loose ends, the same way he's trying to do now. So, you know what I mean? Anyways,
this is the first of the 2 discs, and the music box you need to play them.
Well, look at that now. What an ingenious little invention. So then, as promised, 10 guineas for you, young man.
Well, what's this? Windermake's pawnbrokery.
Hi, 'tis a pawnbroker's ticket, so it is. You can use it to redeem an article I've deposited there for you. 'There's no need to give a name. Just hand over the ticket and tell the fiend to watch well. I've put a jewel in pawn for you. It'll fetch a good 10 guineas if you sell it, so it will.
I've never heard of a pawnbrokery being used in quite that way before.
Have you not, Mr. Crayden? London's pawnbrokeries are very useful places, you know. Each one is an extremely secure vault. So he'd give you the ticket. You'd exchange it, tell him the watchword, and then you'd get it and then just sell it to another pawnbroker for the same 10 guineas? Huh. Interesting.
So I knew that if he'd taken steps to hide the disc, it would be in that pawnbrokery somewhere, and that on the night he killed my father, he must have entrusted the ticket to someone.
Yes, to Gina. I remember now. That when we first met you at Winterbank's that afternoon 2 days ago, you had a description of Miss Lestrade written down. How did you know who you were looking for?
From the trial, that pickpocket's testimony was clearly peculiar. Anyone could see that. I realized immediately that she was another of McGilden's pawns, that he must have threatened her somehow. I was fairly convinced that it would be her who had the ticket, so I started to make some inquiries. I had a strong suspicion the girl would come out of the woodwork on the redemption deadline.
And he was absolutely right.
And yes, sure enough, she did. All I needed to do was wait until the girl was at Winterbank's to redeem the articles. But unfortunately, she redeemed only McGillet's overcoat and the one disc that was in its pocket. The all-important music box with the second disc inside was missing.
Because it had already been forfeited 2 days earlier.
But I wasn't aware of that fact. Had I not been, I could have avoided my nighttime excursion.
Meanwhile, as our investigation into the stolen government secrets was progressing, we'd picked up on the fact that McGilden was involved.
Inspector, you've recovered fast.
My orders were to recover the stolen information as quickly as possible. So, we started gathering the fellow's possessions and examining whatever we could to lay our hands on. We had a full-scale investigation going on at the yard, but we had to keep it as quiet as we could.
Okay, sorry, something just came up again. So,
Then, when the inspector here took the disc from me in the pawnbrokery that day, I became nervous. I was sure the music box and the second disc was still in the shop there somewhere. So, I knew that it was a race against time. I had to find those articles before the police did.
so that's what prompted you to break into the place that same night. With the help of your old friends, the Skulkin brothers.
What happened that night in the pawnbrokery, I can only describe as a nightmare. While Nash and Ringo were searching the counter, I'd located the music box and I'd sold to McGilden on the shelves of the forfeited articles.
And the second disc was inside?
Yes, I slipped it into my pocket with a very deep sigh of relief. But then, something entirely unexpected happened.
What are you doing in my shop?
A gunshot rang out in the shop, and I felt a sharp pain in my left arm.
The broker fired his gun, and the bullet pierced your limb.
Yes, exactly, but unfortunately, I decided to bring my own gun with me that night, just in case.
Yeah, the same gun he used against us, or tried to use against us.
Before I knew what was happening, I'd fired back. The man had already turned to flee. I hadn't intended to fire in his direction, much less kill him. But unfortunately for both of us, the bullet hit home. It struck him in the middle of his back as he fled to the storeroom for refuge.
A sorry, sorry tale.
It all took place in the blink of an eye. I don't imagine Nash or even Ringo realized what had happened at first. I was terrified, so I fled. And that's the whole story. That's everything that happened at Winterbanks on that wretched night.
Jeez.
Earlier, you called McGilded a monster. A man who used his wealth and influence to distort the facts and escape justice for the crime of murder. What tragic irony. For what you have done is exactly the same. You've become the very monster you saw and despised so deeply in McGilded.
Yes, I think I have.
Well, this has been a long and exhausting trial. However, it would seem at last that we've arrived at the truth. Inspector Gregson, what of Mr. Ashley Graydon?
He's been restrained, my lord, and is being escorted to the yard.
He'll be charged with the murder of Mr. Winterbank and the stealing of government secrets. Very good. And you, Inspector. Regrettably, you will have to face charges yourself.
Yes, my lord, of course. It transpires that you were complicit in helping a criminal escape justice. That fact remains, whether or not you were doing so in the line of duty. The crime is a serious one, Inspector, and inexcusable.
Now to the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade.
Yeah?
It is time for the final adjudication. Is the jury ready, Mr. Foreman?
Yes, sir. Garrett up squadron standing by, sir. This really is it now.
The last push, final call, the finishing whistle. My men are ready to deliver their verdicts. Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Very well. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you now declare your final decisions to the court.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Alright. That is trial complete. Haha, that's the stuff. I'm off the hook.
Finally, Bruno, you managed to do it.
Finally is the word. I wasn't really sure myself if we'd come out on top for a while there.
Susie was right. You're the best lawyer in the world.
Miss Lestrade, I'm not finished with you yet.
Eh? What are you looking at me like that for?
Before you start enjoying your freedom, there are certain other crimes to consider.
Eh?
2 months ago, in my courtroom no less, you gave false testimony, did you not? And, in relation to the trial today, not only did you unlawfully enter Mr. Winterbank's pawnbrokery, you also attempted to abscond with Mr. McGilded's property, it seems.
I never did nothing of the sort. Of course not. It's not like you were gleefully wearing McGilded's coat in your cell yesterday or anything.
Aww, and just when I was getting excited about throwing a party for Kid Ginny this evening.
And turning our attention to the defense. Determining that, when played together, the music box and discs contain a message in Morse code was, well, it was certainly a most unexpected revelation, Counsel.
Quite so, my lord. The prosecution was caught entirely off guard. In fact, I think we should applaud my learned friend's courage here today. I propose a toast to demanding that a government secret be disseminated before the entire courtroom.
Very sorry about that. It was the only way that I could get Inspector Gregson to admit to what he'd done, so... If I may say something on that point. Isn't that... It's, about these sounds produced by the music box before. I do wonder if that was really Morse code at all. What? What are you saying, madam? Oh, well, it's just that I'm really rather fanatical when it comes to Morse code, you see. So much that the whole world seems to be covered in dots and dashes to me, in fact.
Goodness, madam, an unhealthy level of obsession one feels.
But I must say that in my opinion, the sounds produced by those two discs were nothing more than that, a meaningless series of two different tones. What? Can that really be? It wasn't Morse code at all, after all? My lord, the defense would like to listen to the music box again.
Are you off your nut? How many times do I have to tell you? Those discs contain ministerial secrets, sunshine. This courtroom is not an appropriate forum to discuss the nature of the government communications. We know that McGilded conspired to trade national secrets with our enemies. Secrets acquired from Mr. Graydon. Now that the man has admitted to his crimes, we have no need to pursue the matter further.
Ugh, but it's really gonna bother me. I have a feeling we'll find out soon enough.
Mr. Strahd?
Yeah, my lord?
That which you have seen today here in this courtroom has been extremely disturbing.
Falsified evidence, intimidation, perjury, a grim catalogue of depravity.
An appalling exercise to befall
I guess exercise is fun.
to befall any child.
Come on. There ain't nothing I don't see most days in the back slums.
I beg your pardon?
If you're weak, you pay for it. That's just how life goes. Gina. Look. I reckon I've worked something out today. The world ain't fair, but if you want it to change, you've got to start at home. You've got to change how you are yourself.
Well, that's a very laudable lesson, I would say. I eagerly look forward to the born-again Mr. Strahd never gracing my courtroom with her presence again. Now, with regard to the murder of Mr. Pop Winderbank, proprietor of a pawnbrokery business on Baker Street, I hereby declare the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, not guilty.
Well, that's a trial. Okay.
That is all. Court is adjourned.
On a personal note, I must say you surprised me, my Far Eastern friend.
Oh.
Despite being a Nipponese, you saw through the pretense to the malice that festered within that Englishman, and at the same time saw through the grime to the surprising heart of your English client. You have a curious talent for judging character, especially considering our very different cultures.
I don't think there's anything curious about it. Whether we're from the Empire of Great Britain or the Empire of Japan, we're all human beings. We're not so very different on the inside.
You know, I took this case for one very simple reason. To lock swords with you once again, here in the courtroom.
You did?
When I encountered you for the first time 2 months ago, it reminded me of toasting friendship and trust with another Nipponese, only to find my trust betrayed. Through you, I hope to look into the eyes of the man I once knew and try to understand.
You mentioned something similar earlier today, about total betrayal at the hands of the Japanese. What happened exactly?
Well, you may ask. And on one day, when the time comes, you will learn the answer, whether you like it or not.
Alright, then I'll wait for that day if I must.
Coming to be known as the Reaper of the Bailey, and my retirement from service 5 years ago, it gives me cause to wonder if our meeting has some deeper purpose. So, farewell, my learned Nipponese fellow, until we meet again.
And to be honest, I think that's a good place to end things off at. So, we still have a little bit more left to go. Tomorrow will be not tomorrow, well, for me tomorrow, but next time will be the last episode. So, yeah, wow. Jeez. Anyways, so yeah, I think I'll talk more on my thoughts later tomorrow, or maybe because my plan right now is literally to record the final video tomorrow and then like later on record like a bonus video, because there's like special content that only comes from that's only for the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles 1. So I'll explain more when I get there, but yeah, it's something. So I might just finish the game next time and then kind of have like a review / bonus feature stuff of just me talking about the game, and you know what I mean. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. And yeah, so with that being said, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.